Hey there, buckaroos. I just wanted to remind you all to check out our sponsor, jeffsawesomepods.com. That's right. He finally has a URL that is easy to remember and features all of the shows that he is doing at the moment. His two main shows are going strong. Shattered Worlds RPG is an actual play podcast featuring spaceships, magic, zombies, and robots. And Foolish Wits is a weekly chat show about writing, Shakespeare, daily nonsense, and comedy. Find all the info you need at the brand spanking new URL, jeffsawesomepods.com. This is an Unspoiled Network podcast. This is Some Spoiled, a song of ice and fire. 2. The co-host, Switcheroo, the re-reading. Return to Westeros, HBO Spoiler Edition, uncut, uncensored, and too hot for TV. Etc., etc. We are covering chapters 65, 66, and 67. Sansa, Theon, and Tyrion. In these chapters, Sansa gets put aside in favor of Marjorie Tyrell. Theon gets put aside in favor of Ramsay Bolton. And Tyrion gets put aside in favor of Tywin Lannister. Everybody sucks. Welcome to Unspoiled.
Monsters are dangerous, and just now, kings are dying like flies.
I am the king!
Fuck the king.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn. Sorry about that delay.
I was like, did she? What? I just heard her laughing. What's going on over there?
Nothing.
These three are like we're at the end of the book. We have to start setting up the arcs for everybody that will take place next book. What was your feeling on these three, considering that you know a lot of this stuff already?
Yeah, it was fun to read some of the smaller differences from what the show did and what's happening in the books. It was really, really cool. I liked being in Sansa's head for the Marjorie reveal. Mm-hmm. That was fun because I know that that's the thing that happens, but I wasn't sure in the book who would tell us that happened. Would we watch it from her or maybe from Tyrion? So it was cool to be in her head. And the Theon reveal is so different. The Ramsay, all of that is so different than what the show did that I have been wondering when Ramsay comes back, like when he's revealed to be who he really is, and what that's going to look like because it's so different than what the show did. So yeah, these are pretty good.
What did you think about it in contrast with the way the show I'll be honest, too. I don't remember how the show handled it. What did they do?
In the show, and you might want to, if you Google it, because I can't remember exactly, but I feel like in the show, when Tyrion has to leave Winterfell, wait, you know what? I don't
pull
remember.
Up the notes
from... pull up the notes and see if someone
Austin says.
Because in the show, the whole Ramsay pretending to be Reek doesn't happen at all. So I can't remember how Theon ends up in Ramsay's debt, but I feel like it had something to do with Theon trying to escape from Winterfell and Ramsay, air quotes, seeming to save him. But then it turns very ugly pretty quickly. But I can't remember the details. And to be honest, I meant to look it up as well, but also I have to be really careful.
Yeah.
I don't like to go back too much and look at what the show did exactly because I might get
Yeah, I could see that, because even if there's like something that's like, here's what happened in the show, it could easily be followed up at the end of the sentence with, unlike in the book, when such and such is what happened.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and it makes me a little crazy, because when I have those questions and I know that the answers exist in my brain, but trying to unlock them is so tricky.
Yep.
That I'm like, well, if I just catch a sliver of a phrase, maybe that will, trigger a memory. But it's a dangerous game I play, you guys. Dangerous game. So all that to say, I can't remember exactly how Theon ends up in Ramsay's service, but it is not like what I just read, which was this really has to sting for Theon.
Yeah. This is like, this is the sort of thing that I feel like, I understand why they changed it for the show, because so much of what's going on with Theon is internal, and I don't know that it would have the same effect if you haven't been in his head hearing everything up to this point to understand just how relieved he is here and everything. Mm-hmm. But, I do, like I said, I get why they change things for the show. Certain mediums work better with certain things, but I just find this overall more compelling in the book. It's just, you as a reader don't know what's going on, Mm-hmm. Like, you do, but the first time I read this, I was genuinely like, wait, what?
Yeah,
I had no fucking clue. So, okay. All right. Well, let's back up and talk about Sansa. She is in the throne room.
Yeah. She is so happy she is about to float away. Like, that kind of giddiness you have inside?
Yep.
Where it feels like you could, like a balloon, you could just go into the sky. You're so fucking
God.
happy and relieved.
It's so understandable, her feeling on how this is going to work. And yet I felt like such an idiot when Dantos brings it up later, and I'm like, oh my God, of course.
Yeah.
I just didn't think about how, if you're a king, you can just kind of do what you fucking want. Like,
absolutely. You go into it with like this, even though we know by this point in the book and in the series, I mean, it's only book 2, but I think things have been made really clear for us. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We know, right, that this is not going to go the way she is thinking.
Yeah.
And yet there's a part of us that is the same part of Sansa where you just feel like, well, but he doesn't need me though. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, so this is done. This nightmare's over. It's good now, right? And that makes, when Dantos tells her, no. it makes the fall, like that's what I mean. Like, when she's so excited and relieved in the throne room, and she's like, at the top of the world.
Yeah. And
then the reality check, and the way she comes just crashing violently back down to reality.
Yep.
It's been there, girl.
Oh, that's
girl,
so true.
Been there.
So this whole scene is a lot of names.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
A lot of descriptions of clothing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like ships, but throne room rewards.
It's oh my God! I was like, "What are you talking about?" Okay, yeah. I'm getting it. Yeah, and like, it's one of those things that I have a better grasp now as somebody who's read this already. For the most part, obviously, I've forgotten plenty, but I have a better grasp on who's going to wind up being somewhat important and who won't. And even so, this can be a little bit tedious. It's interesting in a way, but it's...
What way is that?
Personally, I like to see the variety of ways people are dealt with. So we've got people who are like getting a full lordship and lands and everything. We've got people who are getting a lordship but no lands, so basically that's kind of like shady, like, yeah, thanks for your help, but also we fucking know. There's people who are here who are like caving immediately and they're pledging loyalty to Joffrey and everything's fine. Then there are people who are spitting in his face and cursing his name and getting beheaded right there. Like, I
really enjoyed that moment. The one guy, the one Stannis guy who was just like, "No, fuck you forever, you incest baby." I was really here for that.
Oh my god, I was taking a sip of my tea. I was not ready. Fuck you forever, you incest baby. Oh, I'm kind of wanting to switch to talking about Joffrey only as the incest baby and never saying his actual name again.
I would not be, I wouldn't have a problem with that. I'm just letting you know for the record. Yeah, that was a fantastic moment. I also really like that we as the reader have not heard or seen Peter fucking Baelish and I don't even know how long. And we have not gotten any backstory yet. All we know is he is here now and getting fucking Harrenhal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we still don't know exactly, like we know what he was sent to do, but we haven't seen him in so long. And we're just like, oh, well, here he is again. And I guess, he was successful. And I can't, fuck. I'm trying to remember, does he get Harrenhal in the show? I think we talked about this very early on.
I'm going to look and see again in Austin's notes. He didn't mention anything about what happens in the show, which is totally fine, Austin. I'm not trying to, put you on blast.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make it sound like that. Do your damn job, Austin, that you do for free out of the generosity of spirit.
And genuinely, Austin is not only doing this for free out of just generosity, but he's, paying attention to shit in such a way that he heard in the last episode that we were going to cover 3 chapters this week, and he had sent info for only 2. And then he messaged me on Discord and was like, "Hey, sorry about that. I'll send the 3rd chapter." And I'm just like, I can't believe how on this you are. You're more on this than I am, and this is my goddamn job.
He's like a producer. How many producers do we have behind the scenes? We have a lot.
I would fucking
you guys
love
don't
to
even
have
know.
A real producer. Oh my god, how amazing would that be? Have that little earpiece like Jon Stewart and just be like, "I'm getting that,"
Right. What's there's that meme of fucking the man whose name I'm not going to say that has that giant podcast. And whenever he has a question about something, he's just like, "Hey, so-and-so, look that up real quick for me."
I did not know that was a thing. Now I take it all back.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, there's a... So this scene of everyone coming in and getting their rewards for bravery and loyalty and whatever other shit. Oh my god, you know what though? Do you remember what the end of the battle was like in the show?
No.
When Cersei, and I might be wrong, but alright, maybe I'm confusing when it happened. There was a scene in the show where Cersei is about to poison her kids.
Oh, I forgot they did that in the show.
And doesn't Tywin come riding in? She thinks it's Stannis at the gate, of the big room. I think she's in a room or not. But then the doors open and it's Tywin instead, and she's just about to poison the kids and herself.
I had completely forgotten that they did that. Wow.
Yeah.
And it's that's another example of did it happen in the books? No. Did it sort of happen in spirit? Kind of. You could definitely see the Cersei in the books doing something like that.
I mean, if she had her kids actually with her at this time in the books, I would not be surprised at all.
Exactly.
But since the kids hadn't been shipped off anywhere in the show, that was something that was available to them to explore. Oh my god. What was the other thing about this whole scene? There was a couple of things that really stood out to me.
The fact that Tywin's horse takes a dump in front of the...
There is that little detail as well.
That was in the show. They, of course, kept that, which is unsurprising because they can't resist because they're children.
Yeah, that's true. That is really true. My god, when Joffrey gets hurt, stabs himself on and starts crying.
Guys, for those who don't remember, when the dude comes in who basically keeps yelling about how Joffrey is an incest baby, And Joffrey jumps up and is like, kill him now. He gestures wildly without really like thinking and slices himself on the Iron Throne because it's all blades. And one of the dudes who's against Joffrey is like, see, the very throne rejects him. And Joffrey, meanwhile, as soon as he gets like sliced, goes, Mom! Like, it's just really embarrassing the whole way that this is handled.
It is so embarrassing. Like, how did you show your face again? Mm-hmm. He better glue that shit back together like I did with that paper cut that one time. God.
I just like and Tywin winds up like coming forward at this point and sort of taking things in hand. And I think that's as much about stopping Joffrey from continuing to humiliate himself as it is getting this other guy under control.
Isn't Tywin also the one that just very calmly and clearly is just like dead all that nonsense? Like, he just makes a gesture and they like pull that guy over to have his head removed. Like, it's handled without a bunch of like theatrics.
Yeah.
Tywin is just like, yeah, you're going to want to take care of that. And it's done.
I just don't... This is my one regret with this book. I want a Tywin POV from this particular chapter. Just even a half a POV, like a half chapter. I just, like, we know what he's thinking, but I want to hear it in his words.
Yeah, you want to hear it, just how cutting it is.
Yeah, I want to hear, like, the contempt and actually see what his overall plan is. Because, like, we get looks at it, but obviously there's a whole other thing that's already being worked on here that we're not aware of as readers. And it's not like when he talks to people, he doesn't tell them exactly what he thinks. So he's not exactly a mystery, you know, because he feels confident enough to be totally honest with everyone, because who's going to stop him? But yeah, I don't know. I really want to hear somebody being like disgusted with Joffrey in a way, like Sansa in her POV. Obviously, she thinks he's an idiot, but she's relaying things in a sort of dispassionate, like, here's what happened kind of way. And not getting too petty about her description of Joffrey, despite having complete rights to be as petty as she wants to be. And I guess that's what I'm missing, is I want somebody to say the words, this guy is a pathetic piece of shit.
Even Tyrion is not satisfying. It's not enough. You need somebody else that also...
Tyrion is at a disadvantage because of how he is seen by everyone. So I want, like, as much as we know that he is a good, competent person who is doing his best, he is still so... He is not respected the way that he should be. And so having somebody who's in Tywin's position, who everyone is genuinely, like, afraid of, I don't know. I feel like it would have a different, like, level of satisfaction for me. That said, I have, like, he is so restrained, because you know that he's disgusted by this. But he just steps in and handles shit and moves things right along. And he doesn't, like, you know, humiliate the kid further, even though it would be understandable if he felt the need to do so, because he knows that that's not the look we want to go for, that we don't have a united front as a family. I don't know. I just, like, part of me thinks that this is also good writing, that we don't get anybody to, you know, like, so you don't get that kind of satisfaction, and that's on purpose.
I will say, last reference to the show, well, not the last reference, but another reference to the show, I feel like they were able, because you could do this kind of thing with the TV show, is they were able to put those words in Tywin's mouth. Like, I remember him being full of contempt and disgust for the way Joffrey behaves, that he's not, like, fit to be a ruler, you know, that he's, like, a petulant child, and having sort of disgust for Cersei because she cannot control him. And Tywin feels like he has to... Like, if you can't control your son, I guess I'll have to, kind of energy. But yeah, you're right. We don't really get that. We can't get that in the books because he doesn't have his own POV chapters. Yeah. And I guess the biggest news, two biggest bits of info here in this chapter are that Marjorie is now going to be the new queen. And these people turned on Sansa so fast.
Oh my god.
Y'all, no traitor queens.
Yeah, it sounds like they were coached beforehand about exactly
100%.
how, you know.
100%.
But nevertheless, it is just goes to show.
And there's this just whole fucking song and dance about, you know, how he can't do it because Joffrey made a vow, and then like the Septon or someone is like, no, you're released from your vow because, you know, King Robert didn't know about the betrayal that was coming, and you know they were false friends, and you know, what did they say about her? She Marjorie remains innocent.
Yeah, remains
because,
innocent, and has fallen in love with you from afar.
That, like, come on.
Oh, God.
She's heard tales of your wisdom, courage, and chivalry. Bitch, where? Where did you hear those tales?
Oh, man.
And then, of course, the other big piece of info that you don't know, if you know, when you first read, is the necklace that she gets.
Yeah. Well, hairnet.
Right. Hairnet, that's right. It's a hairnet here. Which sounds just lovely.
I know, right?
As hairnets go, it sounds really, really pretty. You know, when it's said that it's a hairnet, you know, I go to in my mind, like, I don't know
Lunch
what y'all
ladies?
think of when you basically, yes. And I was like, why would he be giving her such a thing? Is she going to cook in the kitchens? Like, what exactly? How far has she been demoted?
Yeah, I think that, like, if you're talking about something like this properly, it would be called a snood.
That would not have helped me at all.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, he didn't use that word because many people would just be like, "Oh, what now?" But a snood is like a hairnet that is meant to be really decorative and pretty. And I had one when I was like going to Renaissance fairs a lot.
Watch that shit be the next Wordle. A snood.
Oh shit, that's a really good one. I love it. If it didn't have a double letter, I would use that as like my opening word for the next Wordle. But do you have an opening word that you use every time on Wordle?
Not every time, but I have a handful that I rotate. I get really weird. I use adieu. Adieu.
Adieu.
Adieu. I use shame.
Oh, okay.
Because, you know, anything that gives like with the E on the end. I use weary, which is good.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Get an E and an A and a Y. And then, like, if I'm feeling really, like, the other day, I opened up with chump for no reason. I was just, that shit came back all blank. It was not helpful. I would not recommend using that word.
That's a good one, though. I really enjoy that.
I was just feeling like, fuck it. Let me just, fuck it. Chump. Why not? And then that shit came back, and I was like, oh, that's why not. That is.
I had been using naked, and lately I've been using nasty. So I guess you saying chump and shame and me using naked and nasty really is like a sort of insight into each of our personalities a little bit.
Yeah, I like to get as many vowels out of the way as I can, which is why I like audio and adieu.
Yeah.
Because you get like 4 in one word. But anyway, okay. So, what else? Is there anything? There's a lot in this first chapter, but it's a lot of, like what you said earlier, a lot of just sort of like name dropping and seeing who's getting what.
I do want to talk a little bit about what's going on with Littlefinger, because the thing that's sort of Sansa's hang up is I don't understand why he is so happy about what these like gifts are, because they don't actually they're not in our hands to give away yet. So why is he so confident he's getting them? Lord Paramount of the Trident and Lord of Harrenhal, the honors were as empty as the title granted to Helene the Pyromancer. Harrenhal was cursed, everyone knew that, and the Lannisters did not even hold it at present. Besides, the Lords of the Trident were sworn to Riverrun and House Tully and to the King in the North. They would never accept Littlefinger as their liege. And then she's like, unless they have to. But Rob's always beaten them. And I'm sorry, Sansa, I just hate this for you.
Yeah. Like, us getting this little tidbit about Harrenhal and the Trident and how those houses are sworn to the North, and then seeing Ramsay show back up at Winterfell with some forces of his own, which on its face doesn't seem terrible because Theon is not like of the North, and Ramsay taking over isn't necessarily immediately a red flag. You know?
Yep.
At first look, but like you realize, oh, like when you look back on it, you're like, oh.
I just. Okay, I'm gonna come back to a thing with this in later chapters, but I want to like put a pin in this to mention it later on.
Okay.
Just anybody who feels like keeping track of anything other than me keeping track of things in my extremely haphazard way, feel free to remind me of a thing with Sansa and Peter Baelish and her thoughts in this moment.
And Baelish says after they announced that, you know, that I guess I better go get me some sons.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so
such a fucking creep.
Then the announcement, I guess, you know, that goes along with the Marjorie thing is that, you know, the Tyrells have like completely thrown in behind the Lannisters now, which is a pretty big deal.
Yeah. And it turns out also that that Loras's brother was the one in Renly's armor. He was the one that sort of inspired everybody.
Yeah, I like the description of him is, where is it? It's I can't find it when I need it. So he's alright. He's not no Lord.
Right, exactly.
You know? But he's alright. You know?
I feel so bad for people who are like related to extremely good looking people and you can see the resemblance but like not in a good way.
Listen, it is so hard for my brothers and sisters, y'all.
Oh, that was seamless. I loved it. Very good. There's an ongoing joke. Oh, actually, it's in The Good Place. Do you remember with the one Hemsworth?
Yes.
That nobody knows about?
No.
It's a Hemsworth brother, and he's like a really good person and a doctor and everything, but anytime anyone meets him, they immediately want to talk about his brothers, and he's like just so insecure over it, and he's like startlingly attractive, but he doesn't think he is because his brothers are so like, you know, so he's just like, yeah, I know I'm ugly and I'm stupid, and you know,
I don't remember that at all.
I'm pretty sure that was in The Good Place. Yeah, I might be wrong. It might be a different thing, but
that's really funny because the other Hemsworth brother that's out there in the world, there's like a handful of them, right?
Yeah, there's a few Hemsworths.
There's the one that's on Westworld, right? Isn't he one?
He's a Skarsgård, I think. Isn't
he?
I
got my wrong family. You're right. Yeah. That's a different.
There's Liam Hemsworth, who is the one from Hunger Games, I think. And, like, he's extrememely attractive, don't get me wrong, but, I mean, Chris Hemsworth is just kind of not really human.
I mean, you're not going to be as good-looking as Chris Hemsworth. I just don't care who you are, you know? You just don't have a chance. It's unfair to all the rest of us.
I remember, I was talking to Owen about something with Marvel, and I said something about, well, it's hard to beat Chris Hemsworth, and Owen gave me a surprise look and was like, I didn't know you found him attractive, and I just, like, stared at him, like,
What?
What do
Two
you
eyes?
mean?
What do you...
I am not going to like sit here and talk about how hot he is to my like future husband or anything, but I'm not blind.
Me and Steve went to a wedding in the beginning of January, and the MC, you know, they had like a DJ, and then they had like an MC.
Okay.
You know, and he was so fine. And I actually said out loud by accident, "God damn, he could get it." And I was sitting at a table next to my husband and across from my mother and father-in-law and brother and sister-in-law. Y'all.
Oh my God. What was that reaction?
Steve looked at me and he was like, "Are you fucking serious right now?" It just flew out of my mouth. I usually do not behave that way. But this motherfucker was fine.
Oh my God. That is so embarrassing.
I don't know what the fuck. I don't know. It just got away from me.
He's
fine though.
You know the actress. What did you see Knives Out?
I did.
So Ana de Armas, I think is how you say her name. She is the lead in that. The what do you call it? Caregiver that is taking care of the dad who's implicated, and she's really pretty in that. Even where they have her sort of dressed down and very casual and everything, but she shows up in the new James Bond movie, and she's literally wearing this backless, like thigh-high split ball gown that's like slinky, and she has got a thigh holster for her gun, kind of like just every sort of cliche about the hot Bond girl. And she showed up, and Owen next to me in the theater was like, "Jesus Christ." And I was like, "Do you fucking mind?" And then later I get a picture of her with her back to the camera in this backless dress. And I'm like, "Why are you doing this?" And all of a sudden, "Oh, sorry, that was for Cam."
Oh, shit.
Why are you like this?
He texted you by accident. Oh, my God.
Sir.
Hey, Roman fucking sending that dick pic instead of Jerry.
Oh, God, that is such good shit. But yeah, it was just one of those moments where I just like didn't even reply to him like, "Oh, sorry," and then I just deleted the photo from the fucking text feed so that he would, when he logged in, he would see that I had fucking got rid of it. Sir.
Oh my God, that's funny.
He could get it. Oh, sorry. Okay. So, where was the other thing here? Oh my God. Here's the thing. There were great lords and noble knights in that company, too. Sour old Lord Teltagar, the Red Crab. Sir Bonifer the Good. Lord Estermont, more ancient even than Celtigar. Lord Varner, who hobbled the length of the hall on a shattered knee but would accept no help. Sir Mark Mullendore, grey-faced, his left arm gone to the elbow. Fierce Red Ronnet of Griffin Post. Sir Dermot of the Rainwood. Lord Willem and his sons, Joshua and Ilias, Sir John Fossaway, Sir Timon the Scrapesword, Orain the Bastard of Driftmark, Lord Sedman, called Pennylover, hundreds of others. At one point, he's like, he's gained the nickname Eater of Apples, and I'm like, that just feels really silly. I mean, I get it, because the Fossaway symbol is an apple, but, like, come on, we couldn't do better than this. And this is like what I mean in terms of there comes a point where you're just like, "Oh God, can we get on with it? I don't even know who to pay attention to here. What's actually going to be important?"
Right. Yeah, that little group that you just read are all like Stannis' men that are being dragged in to answer for their crime of treason, and decide whether they're going to bend the knee and pledge fealty to Joffrey or if they're just going to die.
Yeah.
So then that's when we get the one guy that has the outburst, and shortly after that, Joffrey hurts himself on his throne of pointy things. And then it's finally over. And there's a bit where, when it's finally done, it says something about, this has been a really long day. This has been all day. Mm-hmm. And Sansa has been standing to watch all of this, along with the whole court. And there's a bit where it's mentioned that a lot of people who were, in the back...
Oh, are fucking bailing?
Just bounced. Yep. They just left. But, people that are closer to the front, there's no way for them to just, dip out. They have to stay for the whole thing.
I adore this. I know that all of us have been in this situation at one point or another where the way we were positioned, we just couldn't, and it's so awkward. Especially when you can really read on everyone's faces that they're all thinking the same thing.
Yeah, we're done. Can this just be over? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And there's 3 more hours to go.
And especially, Joffrey's in charge here, and he even doesn't want to do this right now.
Oh, he's so bored after, the first 2 hours or so, and it's, just dragging on. And he gets all fidgety in his seat, and, yeah. So finally she's, excused, and she goes back to her room, and food has not tasted as delicious in what seems like forever. Mm-hmm. And she's just, just on top of the world again. And Dantos comes in. And, she goes to the Godswood.
Right.
After she eats. And she sees him there.
I love that she has to pretend to be heartbroken at being put aside. So that, because Cersei was like, you're not going to humiliate my son by acting happy about this. And even when she goes to the Godswood, she, makes a show of sounding miserable.
Oh, yeah, because she has to, pass some guards, and, she's just, she's supposed to look like the disappointed, embarrassed, cast, to the side, and this should be, the worst day of her life.
Right.
Is how she's supposed to look. Which is really odd to me, because this is a girl who watched her father get his head chopped off, and yet this is supposed to be the worst day of her life. So.
Yep.
He comes, Santos shows up, and he looks bummed out as well. And she's like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Today is a great day. Why do you have a sad face? And he has to, again, hit her with that reality hammer. And gives her the hairnet and tells her that the stones are the rarest kind. And she's thinking to herself, I fucking need a ship, not fancy shit for my hair. Mm-hmm. And he tells her that the jewels are lovelier than she knows and that it's magic. She just doesn't see it yet. And says it's home. So, I had always
Somebody wants to get past in your neighborhood.
Somebody is waiting on fries, and it's taking entirely too long.
Oh, God.
But yeah, when he says that about how they're magic and that it's home, I had assumed that when he hands her this, same from the show, it's a necklace in the show, whatever, but that he didn't know what exactly he was handing. Just that he was passing on this this gift. But this sounds like he knows that this is full of poison.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I actually sort of caught that myself. I was like, yeah, he's talking like he's aware of what this is. And that...
Why would he... That doesn't make sense, right? Why would you tell something like that to someone like that?
I don't know. And, I'm not sure that he actually knows exactly, practically speaking, how this works. Or if somebody was just no, trust me, it's really important. And they, they framed it, maybe they lied and said it was something else.
Right.
I don't know, but yeah, I was also thinking that.
Yeah. Maybe, whoever the benefactor is, whoever gave that to him, has framed themselves as an ally to her, but she just can't know.
Right.
So, maybe he's just going on the word of this person promising that this is just a step in the plan that eventually leads her to being home.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah. And then then we have the Theon chapter.
Wait, hold on. I want to talk about something with Sansa and Dantos here. And we've talked about this a little bit already, but because of there's a mention as Sansa is like going to the Godswood. Sir Osmond Kettleblack was guarding the drawbridge in his white armor. Sansa tried her best to sound miserable. From the way he leered at her, she was not sure she had been wholly convincing. And then Dantos, in the midst of being like, he'll have you in his bed if he wants you there, and yada, yada, yada. He's also, like, kissing her sloppily. And she keeps having to dodge this. Like, this has happened in other chapters where she's talking to him as well, where he just fucking keeps trying to kiss her. And it's like, I just can't get over how well George R.R. Martin nailed this, because... Yo, if it is not the truest thing that when you are a young, pretty girl, even the men who are, like, technically on your side are still gonna be fucking creeps like this to you. It is so true. And I don't know if he, like, just, you know, invented this or if a woman explained to him how this goes a lot of the time. But I have just run in, like, looking back at my life, there were so many men that I thought were being, like, just generous or... And I mean generous, like, with their time and attention and giving, like, putting in a good word for me on things. And now I look back and realize, like, oh no, they were trying to, like, warm me up. They were gonna try and sleep with me, for sure. And I managed to, like, sidestep it because of various circumstantial things. But that wasn't what they intended. And just this whole bit here, and how many times... throughout her POVs, she has had to, like, fend him off. And, yeah, he's drunk, so that's certainly a factor. But, like, some of the guys I dealt with were also drunk. It doesn't matter. Like, you know what I mean? It just... I think about... There was a... this old man that I would wait on when I was working at Whole Foods. And he seemed like such a nice old man. And... then he, like, one day whispered in my ear how he wouldn't mind taking me home with him. And, like, I had just thought of him as this nice old man. And it turned out that he wasn't coming to me to chat with me for the altruistic grandpa sort of relationship. He was out here hoping that I was going to be like, oh, yeah. Are you kidding me? Like, ew. Ew. And I know I brought this up before, but it just really got to me here with the fact that he's in the midst of doing something that will be to her good. It is genuine. It's not like he's lying to get something. He's not like that kind of guy. But nevertheless, even in the midst of like kind of looking out for her, she also has to look out for herself around him. It just doesn't end. There's no where she can, like, rest and be away from this, you know? Goes back to her room and fucking... what's his face is there hiding in her bed. Like, Jesus Christ, can we not? Yeah.
It's since we went back to this, I guess I want to mention that the thing about the way that Osmond is leering at her. Well, I made a joke about, like, being demoted, but, like, even Dantos mentions when he's talking about how she's not actually technically free and that Joffrey could still, like, make her do whatever he wants. He mentions that only now, if he gets you pregnant, all you're going to have are bastards. Yeah. Like, you're not even going to get anything out of it. And Osmond leering at her like that felt almost like she's no longer under... the veneer of protection of being, like, promised to Joffrey and, like, being, like, you know, a queen in waiting or whatever. Yeah. So now she's, like, especially vulnerable, even more so than she was before. Even though the news of Joffrey taking her place is supposed to be such great news, you know, it actually ends up putting her in a much more vulnerable position.
That is a good point.
Yeah. So, and the thing too, really quickly to your point, that there is such a opportunistic nature where men will take, like, if they have a shot they gotta take it. You know, it's. I don't know what the fucking programming is with that, you know, but like, and then everything looks like an opportunity to them as well. You know,
true,
right? So like the cute 20-year-old behind a counter at the grocery store looks like an opportunity, even though, are you out of your fucking mind? It is not an opportunity for anything, but it looks like it could be. So, you know, it's like that fucking shoot your shot mentality just going awry.
Yeah,
like,
and like I get to shoot your shot, but like it's not without its consequences to the person who is on the other end of it.
Exactly. If everybody is shooting at you all a goddamn time from the age of like 13 to say 27, it's just really exhausting.
Yep. And then you become understandably very paranoid about like people's intentions, but then you get called like stuck up for assuming or paranoid and like unfair because you're not giving guys a chance or whatever. And it's like, yeah, because I have been shot at forever, always. And sometimes I didn't even realize that was what was happening. And I'm just figuring that out. Like,
yeah. And then when your value decreases under those metrics and people are no longer shooting their shot at every turn and you try to speak on it, they will just dismiss you as, oh, you just mad because ain't nobody trying to holler at you anymore. Right? Like, oh, you're old now, or oh, you're fat now, or whatever. Like, whatever is making you undesirable.
Right.
Means that your opinion is based in, like, bitterness and jealousy, you know?
It couldn't be just because we figured out that it's a fucking scam. It's like people who are like, oh, people don't like capitalism just because they're poor. And I'm like, well, I mean, that's certainly not part of it, but also why would that be? Because it's a scam and we're poor because it's a scam. That's why. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. I hate capitalism for a bunch of reasons, not just the one.
Yep.
I mean, it's one of them. It's in there. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong.
Anyway.
But it is a gumbo. A gumbo of reasons why.
Capitalist Gumbo. It's a good podcast name. I would listen to that. All right. So, when he says it's magic, it's justice, it's vengeance for your father, it's home. That is the end of that chapter. So yeah, then we go to Theon. Fucking Theon. This is...
Send more birds! I'm going to just start yelling send more birds at work when I'm overwhelmed and I need help. Send more birds!
Oh my god, why is that so funny?
If I do a Facebook status update and it just says send more birds, y'all know your girl is struggling. So give me some like kitten memes or something. That's going to be the way I reach out for help.
Okay, so, okay, hold on.
I'm sorry.
That is indeed how this starts. He's asking for his father's help, is not hearing back, and he's like, maybe he just doesn't understand how urgent it is? And I'm like, baby cakes, that's not the problem. That's not what it is.
When Lewin is like, but we've already sent a bunch of birds. He's like, do you want me dead? Is that what's happening here? And fuck, man, I wanted in my entire spirit for Lewin to just be like, I mean...
Of course I do. Literally, why would I not want you dead? How can you even ask that question?
Right, but unfortunately, he can't just come out and say that, so...
And honestly, I feel like he is telling the truth to a degree here. Like, he says, I may bear you no great love, but I cannot hate you either. And it's my duty to counsel whomever rules Winterfell, and so that's what I am doing.
Right. I like this, too, because it leaves room, and Lewin talks about it, you know, like, his feelings for Theon have to be complicated.
Yeah.
Because he's helped, you know, he kind of raised them. He was there for the raising of Theon, I'll put it that way, you know. And here is this young man who you've known since he was like 10, and he leaves as the young man you think you know. Right? He rides off to war with Rob. And he comes back as this monster. And you want to hate him. I like this because it feels like when he says, you know, I don't have any love for you, but I can't hate you. It feels like it's doing two things. It's like my order prevents me from hating you, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know, the duties of my job mean that I have to behave in this way that I can't hate you. But it also feels like a little kind of like, I've known you since you were 10. Like, in my heart, you know, I don't want to hate you.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just so deeply devastated by what you have become.
Yeah.
And who you've become. Yeah, I really like that little bit.
There's almost a sense of, like, I kind of wish I could hate you. Like,
yeah,
that would be
exactly.
very helpful, actually, but I can't do it.
You know, it would be much less complicated if I could just fucking hate you outright, and that was the only thing I felt. But yeah, it often is not that cut and dry, even in our regular old lives.
It's true. So, this is when he says, you gotta know. You're not going to hold this place. Because Theon's out here talking about, like, well, if we're ever under siege. And he's like, there's not going to be a fucking siege. You've got, like, 20 guys. Mm-hmm. There's no siege. They are just going to come over the wall. It'll be over in a fucking half hour. And you're going to have sat here with your arms crossed, acting like what's happening isn't happening the entire time, like an idiot. How about you just admit the position that you're in and try and make the best of it in a way that is, like, at least a little honorable, and you're scraping together some of your dignity before this ends.
You can get out of this with your life is, like, basically the best you can hope for, considering the circumstances. Like, you are not going to survive a battle or a siege or whatever you think this looks like in your head.
Yeah.
The best you can do is not be killed as soon as they are here. Mm-hmm. And the win is, like, you could take the black. And Theon really considers it for a moment.
That suggestion happens a little bit later, and I really wonder, because, like, Theon considers it, and it actually kind of feels like he might have done it if it hadn't been for them being interrupted in their conversation by the arrival of Reek, Ramsay Bolton. And if Luwin had suggested that in this scene, instead of waiting until later, I really don't, like, was Theon only considering it because of how completely fucking dire things were, or would he have really gone for it if it were suggested now? What do you think?
You know, it's hard to say, because what happens after this scene is Theon goes to deal with his men that are still there.
Right.
And is like, all right, if you want to go, you can go. Mm-hmm. And he only has a handful of guys anyway. And several of them leave.
Yeah.
Right? He's left with, like,
17.
17? Is that it? Mm-hmm. So I feel like he's much more demoralized after that.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Like, in this opening, when he's talking to the wind, that hasn't happened yet. And not only is he still, like, entertaining the fantasy that somehow his father or sister, because he talks about her too, are going to, like, magically appear and rescue him. But then he goes out to deal with his men, and I think that is, like, the last straw before he's like, fuck, this is no good.
That whole thing too, when he is considering it, even in that moment, when he's considering doing something fucking rational, that's actually a pretty good idea, he still can't help but think of it in a way that is absolutely no connection to reality. He's out here like, oh, I could really rise in the ranks. What wildling woman wouldn't want a prince in her bed? Like, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah. He is so disconnected from reality, and has been. Mm-hmm. You know, he just is such a strange character. He is so infuriating.
Yeah.
Like, he just gets under my skin and just fucking pisses me off. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, the hate I have for Joffrey is one thing, And the hate I have for Theon is an entirely different thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because I don't know what it is. Theon is just so childish in a way, even though I'm trying to remember, like, he's like, what, 15 or 16?
I think he's meant to be 16.
Point?
I think he's like slightly older than Rob is.
Right. Is he older? I thought he was younger than Rob.
I think he's older. I might be wrong about that, but
you guys get the main point is just like, you know, look, he's like a teenager, right? And because of the way this world works, you know, these people, these are carrying responsibilities and duties and power that are well outside of what's appropriate for their age, in my opinion. So you start to, like, when I'm reading, I'll be thinking about a 20-year-old Theon, or, you know, or someone the age of the actor.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that will make the behavior seem really incongruous. Because you're like, why is this 24-year-old acting like he's 15? And then I was like, oh, God, because wait, he is, you know?
Yeah.
That entire run of fantasy in his brain about what life would be like at the Night's Watch is what a teenager would think.
Yeah.
That is, you know, you get grounded, and I'm going to run away, and I'm going to move to the city, and have this great life, you know?
That's so
and you're all going to miss me and be sad and wonder what happened to me, and I'm going to be having this great life.
Oh, my God. That's so good. That's a really good comparison.
But, you know, he is a child. So all this to say, my feelings about him swing from, like, seething hatred to just being like, oh, you are just a fucked up kid and you have no idea what you're doing and you're so in over your head and you need to grapple with reality and you just are incapable of doing so. And then I circle back to, well, he can't do it because he's a fucking child. You know? Yeah,
and it's like, because there's a sense with Joffrey, because he's also very childish. But Joffrey is childish in a way that feels like, I want to be coddled like a child, but I also want to have the freedom of an adult to do whatever fucked up thing fucking enters my head.
And also, the difference for me between Joffrey's childishness and Theon's is that there are always adults reminding me what a child Joffrey is. Cersei does it constantly. Tyrion does it constantly, you know. They're always calling him a boy. You're a little boy this. And you know what I mean? Like, there's a real tone around reminding us how young Joffrey is. And you don't get that with Theon.
That's
no one
true.
is reminding us all the time. You know, even Luwin might be, like, barely doing it, you know, in these moments when he's trying to find a connection with Theon and remind him of, like, how things used to be. But other than that, he's just out here running raids and commanding men and fucking whoever he wants to fuck and whatever, like a grown-ass man.
Yeah, it's, and there's also, like, the sense with Joffrey, like, he knows that he's getting away with shit. He knows the stuff he's doing is fucked up, and basically is like, yeah, but what are you going to do? I'm the king, ha. And, like, with Theon, he really thinks he's doing the smart thing. He genuinely thinks and nobody else understands how great my plan is. Everyone else is short-sighted. It's everyone else's problem. Right. And so, like, the whole intention behind the way each of them behaves is so different. And that's part of what makes him so much more infuriating. You can just put down Joffrey as being a sadistic maniac. Exactly. But Theon's somebody that, like, we've met before, you know? Yeah. Everybody has known somebody like this, and it's just, ugh. There was a whole thing. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, you say first.
I was just going to say I liked your point about the difference between Joffrey and Theon as far as what Joffrey does and how he gets away with it. Joffrey I don't want to use any, like, psychiatric labels, but Joffrey seems like he is aware people are watching him, and he just does not give a fuck what they think.
Yep.
And Theon is hyper aware of people watching him and judging him, and he absolutely cares what they think.
Yeah, really, really cares. It's so sad because he, like, cares, but then he doesn't use that in a useful way. Like, if you care what people think and they're giving you advice, taking the advice of people whose opinions you allegedly value and give a shit about is the smart way to handle it. But he doesn't do that. He just, again, insists that other people lack his vision. And that's the thing that I just can't, like, you can't be so dependent on, like, the external validation and completely ignore it.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And the thing that I was going to say, it's just like, it's a personal thing that happened. I had told you about this. But, an online friend of mine named Nikki passed away a few weeks ago of COVID, by the way. So everybody fucking take this shit seriously, please.
Is that what it was? Oh, girl, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you'd found out.
Yep.
Fuck.
And Nikki was like me. She would go out into the world, into the comment sections, and just cause a kerfuffle because she was right and they were not, and she would say so. And somebody whose feathers she had ruffled way back when decided to make a whole ass Facebook post about how it's weird seeing all these people who are mourning a person who was so rude to me. And basically, like, I wish that I could have known that side of her, but instead I only ever got to see this, like, side of her where she wound up blocking me, etc. And it was one of those where this person posted this shit publicly, even though they knew that at least 20 of their Facebook friends were very close to Nikki and really liked her.
On the, like, same day she died,
on the
right?
day, it was, like, later that night. So it was, like, maybe 24 hours had passed. Maybe. And they posted this publicly, and they left their fucking comments open publicly because people are monsters. I don't know how anybody does that. So he does this, and rightfully, somebody screenshot it and shared it in a chat about putting together a memorial for Nikki. And he, like 600 people, and I'm not exaggerating, descended onto his page. And it became a thread that was that kind of thing where you check comments and it'll say just now, but it'll be like 17 comments that say just now because so many people are commenting at the same time. And they were all like, literally, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? Are you seriously making this about you right now? Like, you know, people who are like, who care about her can see this. And how do you not understand how disrespectful and thoughtless this is? And this guy gets completely roasted by so many people. And some of these comments, guys, were, somebody was like, I would like for you to print this status out and bring it to your therapist. And I was like, that is a really, honestly. And this guy, after hundreds of people are telling him, this is fucked up, what is wrong with you? This guy goes private on that post and then makes this big post about how you guys all know who you are and you should feel bad about it. I was just sharing my opinion on a thing and everyone's trying to silence me and this whole thing. And it's just like this sort of situation where there was not one person on his side. Hundreds of people are like, this is offensive.
It had one like, and it was like his mom who liked it.
And yeah, even so, like, he posted, I went to check on him the other day because I was like, what is this douchebag up to now? Because he had made everything private, but I just had a feeling, and I was right, shit isn't private anymore. He's starting to post publicly again. And he posted something about how I'm not the type who's going to bring pitchforks over to your post on a thing. And it's just like, nobody was doing that to just victimize you, dude. They were doing that because you were doing something horrific and disrespectful and thoughtless and mean-spirited and selfish. And I just can't get over people who... I'm sorry, maybe this is just that I am not as sure of myself as I come across, but if I say something and even 50% of people are like, I think you got this really wrong, I am going to sit with that and be like, maybe I got this really wrong. Did I get this really wrong? Mm-hmm. It only takes half, not even.
Nah, this guy was that fucking Skinner meme. Oh. You know, is it me or...
No, it's the children who are wrong.
That's exactly... like, all of these people showed up in mass to be like, you need to take a minute and reevaluate. And this dude was just like, no, it's all of you who are mistaken. I am not a ghoul. It's you all.
I truly can't. And like it keeps happening with Theon's chapter. Everybody he talks to has a suggestion of a different way to handle a particular aspect of what he's about to do. They're not even all telling him, drop this, it's dead in the water. They're just like, hey, maybe this one thing we can do a different way. And he will not listen to a single soul. And every time somebody looks at him after he like disagrees with them, he's like, oh, he hates me too now. He's against me too. Yep. And it's like, maybe they're sick of working for somebody who's incompetent. Like,
it's like after the guys, like after the, you know, who's going to stay and who's going to go, there's the one guy that stays behind and he tells Theon, like, as soon as they get a chance, everybody in this bitch is going to turn on you. Mm-hmm. They're all going to turn. And he's like, we should just take my axe and I'll just get on that drawbridge.
Right.
And Theon is like, to himself, like, oh, this is a suicide mission. This guy just wants to die. Mm-hmm. But the point about how quickly everyone is going to turn, I'm not saying that the guy would have been successful just like trying to be one man against a horde. But the point about what's going to happen to the people who are inside of Winterfell as this battle is looming is a really fair fucking point. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I guess
he
Theon
wants to put them out. Like, and Theon acknowledges that they will turn, but he's trying to handle it. We find out by holding Roderick's daughter hostage.
Yeah. Wait, what do you mean he wants to take them out? You mean like take them out of Winterfell, or take them out like murder them?
I think he means like put them out, like kick them out of the stronghold, like, because let's see, I'm going to try and find the spot where he talks to this. Here it is. Yeah. Oh, here. I know that. What would you have me do? Put them out, everyone. And Theon shakes his head. Is the noose ready? It is. You mean to use it? Do you know a better way? I'll take my axe and stand on that drawbridge and let them come try me one at a time.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, so there's the two things. The sort of face of them on his drawbridge is kind of his, like, yeah, let me do it this way, but not to really be taken seriously. Mm-hmm. Okay, gotcha. Put them out, though. Like, you're just going to evict everybody out of Winterfell and just add them to the horde that's waiting to battle? Like,
honestly, yeah, like, I guess the thought is they're not fighters, and it's mostly, like, women and old people that are left. But nevertheless, it's just, I mean, he has no good options right now, is really what it comes down to.
It's he's gotten himself into a situation that did not have to be really any of this. Mm-hmm. Theon has created a bit of a headache for his family, and which is evidenced by the fact that they are not rushing back to help him in any way. And really, like, he should have just probably left with his fucking sister when she said, let's go home.
It's just, it all comes down to his fucking pride. He just can't bear to look like a loser. He doesn't understand that he already looks like a loser, and he might be able to salvage some respect from people if he took any advice, but no. It all has to be his idea and exactly what he planned on doing from the beginning, with no adjustment or flexibility of any kind. I am so sick of him.
So, let me see. So, what ends up happening next is Sir Roderick comes in, and they have a little bit of a parlay.
Yeah.
Is that using that right?
I think so, yes.
And he's calling him Theon Turncloak to his face, and I just
Theon's like, traitor? What do you mean? And then he has to stop and be like, I guess I can see that. And I'm like, what are you, what?
He calls him like that outside, right, before they're even face to face. And, where is it? Fuck. But,
Sir Roderick Cassell wished to parley with Theon Turncloak. Turncloak. The name was bitter as bile.
Yeah, so when he says, I want to have a meeting, he doesn't even use his right name. And then when he gets in to the gate and meets him face to face, he says that shit right to his face. And this is how rat beef start.
Oh my god. Yeah, I like it.
Oh, Jesus Christ. So, yeah, so Sir Roderick is feeling really comfortable and confident, right? Like, they got this. And it really does feel like they have this. And because this isn't how I remember it happening in the show, for a second, I was reading this like, wait, do they got this? Because that would just really I mean, I want to say that would change everything for me. But then I feel like that would have a follow-up question, and I really couldn't explain what I mean by that. But it would just change everything for the way my brain is going reading these stories. And I was like, wait, if they got this, then maybe that's how Theon ends up becoming Reek. Like, maybe he runs in the middle of the night from Winterfell, you know, and stumbles into Ramsay or something, you know. But I was really thinking for a second that they might recapture Winterfell by the end of this book.
Oh my god.
For a second,
I'm so sorry.
They got me. Yeah, they really had me for a second. But that is not what happens.
Indeed, it isn't.
Yeah, and they're having this parlay, and Sir Roderick is feeling really good, you guys. He is, like, in a position of strength right now. And, my God, there's this one thing. He says, you know, Theon says, I came out to parley, not to suffer your insults. And Roderick says, Winterfell and your life, would be the two things I want from you. Because Theon is like, what do you want? He says, Winterfell and your life. And I just, like, I don't know, like, I'm thinking, like, how do you come back from that?
I love when he's like, it grieves me that we must meet as enemies. And he's like, the only thing that grieves me is that I gotta wait to cut your fucking head off, you piece of shit. And I was like, God,
so fucking aggressive. Oh, he really is here, and he is ready for all the smoke. And I just wanted this to go so very differently, you guys. I really did.
Yep.
So they're going back and forth, and we find out that Theon ultimately has his daughter and is going to use her. Basically, is like, y'all leave.
She's a hostage.
Yeah. And so this is what I have to ask your opinion. You may or may not answer me. So she has been here this whole time in Winterfell?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
So Sir Roderick seems really surprised that Theon would do this.
No, he doesn't. Theon specifically mentions he is not surprised. He is upset, but he is not surprised.
All right. Not surprised, but, like, what am I trying to say? It's like this is something that no one with honor would do, which is why Roderick is not surprised that Theon would do it. Right? So I guess my question is, was there some sort of assumption that this should be off the table? Like that his daughter would not have been in a vulnerable position?
I think that what Roderick is hoping is not that it would be off the table, because like I said, the lack of surprise, I think he knew it was on the table. But I think that he anticipated that Theon would be smart enough to realize, even doing that, I have to do this. Like, and he basically says that later, like, why would you do this when you know that I really don't have a choice? Mm-hmm. I have to come at you after what you did. Like, what, are you kidding me? I don't. And so basically what you're saying is you will kill her. Like, you're telling me essentially she's dead either way. And right. It's not gaining you anything, so I don't understand why you think that this is a valid play.
Well, and the other thing I got a little confused, had some confusion around was when Roderick is like, this is he calls it despicable. Mm-hmm. And Theon is like, well, it's the fuck what happened to me, mm-hmm. and y'all didn't seem to have no problem with that. And so Roderick is just like, it's not the same. It wasn't the same at all. And Theon says, which was hard to read, he says that the noose that he wore was not made of rope, but he felt it all the same. Mm-hmm. And Roderick is like, drawing this very fine line, like, well, it doesn't count because you were never harmed.
Right.
You know? So, this isn't the same thing. Mm-hmm. But Theon was being held under, like, threat of harm.
Right.
If blah, blah, blah didn't do, like, you know, if his father didn't cease and desist, whatever his shenanigans were at the time.
Right.
So, as much as I dislike to say what I'm about to say, Theon is kind of right.
Theon has some valid points.
He's making some points. And that pains me.
There's nothing like when somebody, like a character you hate, says some shit that you're like, oh, fuck.
Child. Anybody I hate makes a good point, and I just have to sit with that.
True.
It's not a thing I appreciate. I
think that like I of course I understand Roderick's point of view that like you were treated really well and brought up like one of his own children in a lot of ways, and I could see not having been in Theon's position that you wouldn't understand what it's like to know mm-hmm, that you're mm-hmm. being, like, you're aware of what the fuck you are. Despite how you're being treated, you know that shit can change in an instant. And mm-hmm, that's a difficult mm-hmm. thing to put into words, so I'm not surprised he doesn't understand it. But I also think, and I'm saying this as, like, Sir Roderick's POV, because Theon thinks to himself as he's saying these words, he had never actually said that out loud, but he realized as he said it how true it was. So Theon's actually being sincere here. Mm-hmm. But if I were Sir Roderick, I would think he is desperately trying to rationalize this shit move that he's making. I wouldn't really buy it, to be honest. Like, we know that he means it, but I don't think I would believe him in the moment. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And that's not to say that he doesn't have a point, logically speaking. But there, you know, as somebody who is watching this happen, I would definitely be like, logic is not what's at play with you right now. That's not, you know, I don't know. So I get him being like, it wasn't the same. I mean, it's not, it wasn't the exact same. But like you said, he has some points. He does.
So, like you said earlier, like this is, Sir Roderick is saying that like as much as this is terrible, his duty is his duty. Mm-hmm. And he's so God, Theon, how could you do this? You must have known. You know I have to attack. Mm-hmm. This is really, really difficult part. And then how does it... I think Theon just, like, turns his back and, like, goes away on his horse. Like, really, at first, it's, like, kind of slowly, but then he, like, speeds up.
Yeah, he's trying to do the, like, cool guys don't look at explosions, except the cool guy breaks into, like, a speed walk right at the end, and it sort of undermines the fact that he didn't look back because, you know... Yeah, so he goes in and this is when he has the conversation with Lewin, who is like, why you could take the black. Why couldn't you just do that? And here, I have black garb aplenty. Once I tear the krakens off, even my horse is black.
Oh my God.
I could rise high in the watch, chief of rangers, likely even commander. Let Asha keep the bloody islands. They're as dreary as she is. Real sour grapes. If I served at Eastwatch, I could command my own ship, and there's fine hunting beyond the wall. As for women, what wildling woman wouldn't want a prince in her bed? A black cloak can't be turned. I'd be as good as any man.
A slow smile crept across his face. And then he's interrupted.
I feel like it's just so frustrating to read because it's a good idea. It really is. And it could have worked.
Yeah,
but the timing gets all fucked.
Yeah. That's a recurring fucking thing in these stories.
Oh, yeah.
Like, timing. If someone had just said the thing a little sooner, a little later, it just... Ugh.
Yep.
So there's this fighting outside, and nobody understands what the fuck is happening. And for a second, Theon thinks maybe like his sister has shown up.
Yeah.
And the person who's giving him the information is like, no, these are Northmen. It's all very confusing.
I love this.
And it turns out it is the men from the Dreadfort. It's the Boltons and their I don't know, their people, their houses or whatever. And they have snuck up behind Sir Roderick and just sort of blended in because they're supposed to be allies.
Right.
And then just cleans them out from the inside. They just sneak in and just completely fuck them up, take them by surprise, and they really didn't have much of a chance. Yeah.
And this should have been, the first read-through, an indicator to me of the relationship changing between Starks and Boltons overall. Because I thought this dude's doing some shit on his own without approval from his parent. But I should have known that, that really isn't how that would work. Maybe he could, but it's unlikely for him to make a move this big.
Right.
Without having gotten approval first. So yeah, I should have figured it out. There's so many signs in all of the chapters surrounding what happens that I just look at it now and I'm like, I don't know how that came as such a shock.
You didn't see it?
I swear to God, yeah.
I feel like it's fair to say in the show we got so little warning.
Yeah.
They did not, place all these clues in the show the way it's laid out in the book.
Agreed.
But so Theon, my God, talk about another one, top of the world and then crashing. He thinks he's been saved, This is great. Someone has come through for him. And then we find out at the end of this chapter that is not what the fuck has happened at all.
No, it is not.
So he sees Reek, air quotes, and I love that in his head, the first thing he thinks is, how the fuck did this nasty, disgusting guy get such nice shit to wear?
Oh
Where all that swag come from? Literally, his first thought is, how did he get such fine armor?
And I should mention too, Austen says that his flayed armor is supposed to be modeled after the armor worn by Gary Oldman's Dracula in the 1992 movie, which I did not know. Thank you very much for this. He gave me a link. I'm going to send you the link so that you can see this armor. I never actually, I saw this movie fairly recently, actually, and I never put together that it's supposed to look like a flayed body. But now that I know that, it makes some more sense. It's real, it's real over the top. It's OTT.
Did you send it to me?
Yeah, I just texted you the link.
Oh, there it is. Nope, that's not you. There you are. I got 2 texts at the same time. Ew.
Right?
Oh.
I know. I don't like it.
I don't like it either. I also don't remember this from the movie.
I don't remember. I think this is meant to be like at the very beginning when you're finding out about like the origin of Dracula, you know?
I don't think I have seen that since it came out. I remember watching it in the 90s when it was a thing.
Okay.
And then I don't think I have revisited it since then.
I watched it, I think, like last year or the year before, because Owen really wanted to see it, and I had never seen it. And it's one of those that I run into this frequently. I go into something with a sort of anticipation of the tone that it's going to be. And if it doesn't match that, I have trouble adjusting with the media and instead sit there frustrated and angry that it's not what I expected. And I have to go back and like review it, understanding the tone they're going for this time. And then I will completely change my mind on a thing. But I have a lot of trouble when a thing is just like, because the tone of this movie is so campy and so like melodramatic in a way that honestly suits Dracula perfectly. I mean, that really is how you have to tell a stupid ass story like this. But I wasn't like, I've only ever seen this sort of thing handled in a very self-serious way. So I went into it expecting something self-serious, and I was just like, do they expect me to take this stupid shit seriously? No, they don't. That's the whole thing, is no, they don't. But I wasn't getting it, so I kind of want to rewatch it now that I know better. But that shit is so long, though. That is a long movie. Oh, my God. But it is very beautiful in its weird ways. And what's her name? Winona Ryder. I want her to be in more stuff.
That was like just about peak. Well, that wasn't peak, but it was right around peak Winona time. Right before she got caught shoplifting.
That was such a tragedy. I was so mad about that. Just like, we were rooting for you. And it's not to say that, like, I wanted to disown her for that, but I knew that was it, you know? Like, ugh. And she's gotten some work recently, but it's taken a while for her to rehabilitate that image.
Yeah, also, you know, she aged, and she occupied a very specific piece of people's imaginations.
That's true.
And as she got older, you know, that just wasn't going to be a thing she could do anymore, which happens with a lot of women actresses, you know, obviously. Okay, all right, so...
There's this thing that he said. Okay, so I'm just going to read this because I honestly am so confused by it. And I've read it a couple times now. So Ramsay says, because Theon says, reek. How did a serving man get such fine armor? The man laughed. The wretch is dead. The girl's fault. If she had not run so far, his horse would not have lamed, and we might have been able to flee. I gave him mine when I saw the riders from the ridge. I was done with her by then, and he liked to take his turn while they were still warm. I had to pull him off her and shove my clothes into his hands. Ride for the Dreadfort, I told him. Bring all the help you can. Take my horse. He's swifter. And here, wear the ring my father gave me so they'll know you came from me. He'd learned better than to question me. By the time they put that arrow through his back, I'd smeared myself with the girl's filth and dressed in rags. So when he says, if she had not run so far, his horse would not have lamed, and we might have been able to flee. And I feel like I am missing something about how this all went down initially.
So this is him telling the story of how he became Reek.
Right.
A while ago.
Right. And who came upon them? Was it Theon's people?
I thought it was somewhere fighting Lannisters, like supposedly helping Robb in one of those battles.
Oh,
but I don't know. I don't know. I can't remember. Notes? No notes?
Yeah, no. I'm like looking at the thing. It doesn't really like matter in the grand scheme, but I just felt like I was really missing something here, and I want it to be clicked into place for me. So anyway, he says there was a woman promised to me, and Theon is just like, all right, I have to fucking do this. doesn't want to hand the girl over, but agrees to do it anyway. And Bolton is like, oh, the dog chick? I am absolutely not taking that girl. I will tell Kira, or I'll take Kira. And Theon is like, that one's mine. Are you fucking kidding? And then he gets his face bashed in.
Yep. Can't even finish a fucking sentence because he has finally gotten the punch to the face that we have all secretly been longing for.
Yep.
And it happens with a fully armored hand, I believe, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's a steel punch.
It
Backhand.
says there's a sickening crunch and the world vanished in a red roar of pain. Yeah. I mean, I think I made a joke like a book ago about how Theon walked through the world like somebody that's never been punched in the fucking face.
Oh, God.
And here we are.
It's like that tweet. Have you ever met a man and it is so obvious nobody has ever told him to shut the fuck
up? What is that beeping? Is that you?
I can't believe you can hear that. Yeah, it's the timer on my toaster oven going off because of my roasting garlic.
Okay. I was like, do I have a smoke detector going off in my house?
It is so weird because I have my headphones on and they're very, they insulate pretty well. So you hearing it when I can't is always so surreal. It's real weird. Anyway, so yeah, this is when he says that all of these guys get cut down around him. There were already 4 of them pressing on Black Lauren. He saw Ulf go down with a crossbow bolt through the belly. Maester Luwin was trying to reach him when a knight on a warhorse planted a spear between his shoulders, then swung back to ride over him.
Yeah, this is awful.
It's really rough.
Yeah. And the fact that Luwin was on his way trying to get to Theon after he's been punched in the face. After everything that he has been through with Theon.
Yep.
This instinct to still try to get to him to help is wild.
You do not deserve him, Theon.
He really really doesn't. So yeah, and then fucking Ramsay says, "Save me the phrase," and that shit is a fucking clue.
Yep. Yep. Like, again, I was not reading this from the frame of mind of a strategist. I was reading this from the frame of mind of somebody who is used to stories that go a certain way. And I thought that Rob was the hero who makes it despite it all. And I was just not ready for how this shit was actually going to work. Just Ned getting his head cut off after thinking he was the main guy should have been my indicator that this is not going that way, but no. I
feel like for those, I mean, I remember for me anyway, at least for the show, like that was like a huge shock, the thing with Ned Stark, and then you feel like in hindsight, you're like, well, that should have been a clue that whatever could happen. But I felt like, well, they did that, they're never going to do that again. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, that was like the show's not going to just keep doing that to us, is it? The books can't possibly, that can't be the thing. But it turns out that is the thing.
Yeah, I really feel like a dodo bird on that. So then we go to Tyrion. And most of Tyrion's, his chapter is him in the midst of hallucinations and dreams because he is under the influence of milk of the poppy.
Yeah, he is really drugged up. So this is like a fevered, opium thing.
Yep.
And it's hard to follow. There's like real things mixed in with distant memories, trying to piece together bits of the battle. I will say I love the inclusion of this sensation of him not having a mouth anymore. Because when the reveal happens that he's all bandaged up, it makes sense that your brain would do that. You know? Like it just made a lot of sense to me. I'm like, oh yeah, that would in your mind be like, where's my mouth? Like you can't really. He's so banged up. Like he's in a bad way.
Yeah, he really is.
And it's
bad
not
enough that when he asks for a mirror, the maester is like,
oh my God. like, are you sure? It's a little soon for that. But yeah, like, I imagine him, like, not being able to really feel when I say feel his face, I mean, like with his hands, like,
right.
Yeah, because he can barely move, but you just know that something is wrong, and your subconscious is trying to make things make sense.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So while this was interesting to read, I don't know if there's a lot that I can really parse from it.
Yeah.
I like the inclusion, too, of this, what's her name?
Taisha.
Mm-hmm. Because at first I thought he was dreaming of Shay. Just because,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then I was like, oh, wait, no, he's going, like, way back.
Yeah.
Way back.
It's so heartbreaking because the affection between the two of them is so strong. And then to know that, this was not anything that he thought it was.
Right.
So,
I've been thinking about that, too. The idea that, because she was paid, that it was all fake.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if it's possible there may have really been some genuine affection. Obviously, finding out that she was paid definitely just ruins it for Tyrion. Like, I'm not saying he should feel differently, but it made me wonder because Shay is also paid. And though he has to remind himself all the time, that I am actually buying this woman's affection, I believe that there is a kernel of sincerity to Shay and Tyrion. I think both things can be true.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
I think that you can have a relationship that is worth actually spending money on, to pay the person for their fucking work, But that does not mean that affection is not possible within that paradigm. You know what I mean?
Right. No, totally. Yeah. Yep, I definitely agree.
But also, I love that this is terrible, but he has, like, he knows when people are, like, standing around him, like, tisking. Look at this poor sap, but again, like, the way it's filtered through his subconscious as he's, like, drugged up it's, like, close to being what's happening, but weird enough to also be like, you're looking at one of those fucking, like, weird paintings,
a magic eye.
Yeah, where you gotta squint to, like, make the ship show up or whatever.
Oh my god. Yeah, and he keeps on thinking, of course, too, that things can't be what they seem like at all because he doesn't know that his father is like here and back. So at one point, Tywin shows up and he's just like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Tywin isn't here right now.
I love, too, that at one point, he's also like, whatever happened to fucking Peter Baelish?
Yes! I loved that moment. He's like, that fucking guy. I know that he didn't come back, and I'm going to get his ass. I'm just like, oh, baby, sweetie.
And, of course, he's thinking about the person who tried to kill him, which was it Mandon?
Mandon Moore, I think. Trying to find the spot, or is it Wyman? Not Manderley? No, Wyman.
I think it's Mandon. It's Sir Mandon. I don't know his last name, but Sir Mandon something. And being like, that was definitely Cersei.
Yes, yeah, he's certain that that's Cersei, and he also we had found out in Sansa's POV that Mandon's dead.
Oh, right. We sure did.
Yeah.
Oh, and they mentioned in Sansa's POV, too, that the Hound was missing.
Yeah, the Hound was nowhere to be found, and Tyrion had, like, a bad gash to the face, and that people thought that he was probably going to die.
And that Lancel may have lost an arm or something. Like, because Lancel wasn't in the room either. He's all fucked up laying out somewhere, too. But eventually, Tyrion wakes up. I think he wakes up a couple times. One time he wakes up and it's not for very long, right? And the person that's treating him is somebody he doesn't know. The Maester Balabar?
Yeah.
And so he's new to us as readers, right? We don't know who this guy is.
I think he's here with the Tyrells, I think. But I could be wrong about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't it? And so this guy comes in and he tells Tyrion, I think, about like his wounds a little bit. Mm-hmm. And he goes like to take the bandages off and to clean everything. And it's too soon to be taking the bandages off, BT dubs.
Oh my God. I can't believe that he does. Like, I understand wanting to see, but also, like, guy, don't just, like, let it heal a little first.
I wouldn't want to see none of that. And we find out that they've been treating it with maggots, and I just, like, I know that this is a thing. I know this is a thing that's been a thing for forever, but I cannot. I do not
blame you one bit on that.
Oh.
Same.
And on the show, we've talked about this, and I know it was talked about when the show was airing, because I remember, like, the comments everywhere. This wound is not the show wound.
It sure ain't.
He had, like, this sexy-ass scar that went, like, down his face, you know? Mm-hmm. And, like, his nose is practically gone. Yep. 3/4 of his nose is gone.
Yep.
I don't...
Have you ever seen when somebody's nose is gone, how that looks?
I have seen pictures, yes. I've never seen anybody in real life.
I remember being so unprepared because I didn't think about the fact that your nose is just like a piece of cartilage that's draped over the hole in your head. Mm-hmm. So if you lose your nose, you can just see straight fucking into somebody's head. Like, there's just 2 holes there. And it just caught me so completely off guard. Again, a thing that, like, if you stop and think about it at all, it shouldn't be a surprise. But I didn't stop and think. Why would I stop and think about that? So, yeah. And he's also lost, like, part of his upper lip as well. So, like, that combined is, like, he probably can't completely close his mouth in a way that hides all his teeth. And I can just imagine this being very skull-like when you see him, you know?
This sounds monstrous. Mm-hmm. And I really, I apologize if that's, offensive. But I feel like it's intended to be monstrous the way it's written. Right? Yeah. And the whole, like, I don't know if I feel like he must have said it himself somewhere at some point. I don't think this is me being original. But, like, the idea that he's always been sort of considered like a little monster. Mm-hmm. And now, like, the look is complete.
Yeah.
You know, it feels very, kind of like, well, almost like, of course. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, like, of course, this is my fate, you know?
Yeah.
And he doesn't, when he sees himself, I'm trying to find it where he brings the mirror, because
he doesn't really have a meltdown. He's just, like, pretty.
Yeah, that's right. That's all he says. And throws the mirror or whatever.
And I love the fucking maester. It may leave a scar, and Tyrion's like, oh wow, a scar? I can't. What? How will I ever cope?
When he said, oh my god, I shouldn't have laughed the way I did, but it's such an absurd thing. But also, like, as the caregiver in that moment, like, I 100% believe if this were a real moment, that's exactly what the fuck the person would be like. They'd be like, well, it might be a little bit of a scar. Oh, shit.
I mean, also, when you're, like, essentially a servant, and you're having to deliver real bad news like that to somebody who is above you.
Yeah.
You always have to soften your... It's like sending an email at work, you know?
Bitch, this maester just got here. He does not work for these people. He doesn't know Tyrion. You know what I mean? He just got to town. And Tyrion's supposed to be asleep. You know what I mean? This is supposed to be like, and now he's in there taking bandages off and putting salve in and having to get mirrors and shit. Like, this isn't what was supposed to happen on his shift.
I love that Tyrion's like, he tries to give him milk of the poppy and Tyrion grabs him and almost chokes him out.
I mean, this guy is just, like, can you imagine? Like, he's like his first week on the job.
Oh my God.
And he has to fucking tell, because one of the things that happens to Tyrion's awake is he realizes he's not where the fuck he's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Why my room look different? Mm-hmm. Where am I? And he has to find out that he's not the Hand anymore, that his father is. And it's the Maester that tells him that, right? Mm-hmm. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Is there a profit-sharing plan? Working for the family, you doing all this shit? Like, what? This is just too much. It's too much.
I'm sorry. Okay.
I feel bad. Like, he doesn't know what to say. He's like, you were wounded. You were almost dead. Your father's here now. You know, and Tyrion is just like, here? What do you mean here in King's Landing? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And he's delivering all of this really huge, consequential news to Tyrion. Yeah. Right? Your father's here. The Tyrells are here. Baelish is... Does he tell him that Baelish is back? I don't know.
I don't think he does.
He doesn't. He doesn't. He just... Oh, no. He says... Yeah, he does.
Oh, he does?
He says Lord Tyrell with the Knight of Flowers on Littlefinger. They all rode through the ashes and blah, 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 blah.
Gotcha.
Took Stannis in the rear.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, everybody. I know this is childish, but every time in the audiobook, it's said in Theon's chapter a couple times, I had to fight to not snicker. Because,
well, you know, I'm not fighting that fight.
Oh my God. I felt like a 12-year-old boy, but sincerely, there has to be a better way to say that. You know, like taken unawares from behind. You know, I don't know. Is that worse? I don't know. But it just, all of it, it distracted me. It distracted me quite a bit.
It's funny too, because when this guy is giving him all the news, he mentions fucking Renly's ghost, and Tyrion is like, Renly's ghost, Littlefinger, and his dad. What the fuck? And he asked Tyrion, like, you know, who would you like? Like, who do you want? And
Tyrion's he's like, do you want your sister? And Tyrion's like, holy shit, no.
He can't think of like who to ask for. And finally he's like, oh, you know what, Pod? Go get me Podrick Payne.
Yeah.
And the Maester says, Tyrion says the boy, right? Mm-hmm. No, Tyrion says Pod Payne, and the Maester says the boy, the odd boy.
Sir, I would thank you to keep your opinions to your fucking self, sir. Do you know who I've been picturing as Podrick Payne lately? Fucking Cousin Greg.
Oh, good God.
For Succession. You're just like, oh, God, yeah.
You know what? I can see that. Mm-hmm. I can see. I feel like Pod he's a little bit of a better person.
Oh, Greg. Yeah. I think you're right.
But I 100% get what you're saying now. God, that's so funny. Yeah, and so then Tyrion is just basically like, don't bring me any more of that shit either, because Cersei would have had me. Because he's in Cersei's quarters, or like somewhere near her.
Yeah, like, she requested that he be kept close, and he's like, right. Oh, did she?
Yeah, right, like, I bet she did. And, yeah, he asked for Pod. He says he does not want any more milk of the poppy. He'll be taking Dreamwine from now on. Mm-hmm. And he asked to get a different maester. He asked for someone named Franken. I asked about who that is. Too. I have no idea who that is. Yeah. I don't know if that's a new name or not. But he does also ask about Bronn, and we find out that he was made a knight.
Yes.
which is funny because I thought that was something that Tyrion did in the show. Tyrion knights him. But here, he gets it from, I guess, from Joffrey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which I don't remember if that was in the chapter. Did they shout out Bronn specifically in that?
I don't feel like we saw that, no.
I don't think so either. And then he asked about Sir Mandon, and we find out that he's dead. Like, at least he's being reported dead for certain.
Right. The whole thing with Pod, too. Pod is so nervous when he comes in. My lord, he crept close to the bed. How can a boy so bold in battle be so frightened in a sick room? I meant to stay by you, but the maester sent me away. Send him away. I love that so much.
And also, the poor maester is just like, I took your bandages off like you told me. I brought you the wine like you told me.
Yeah, find him, bring him, as you say, my lord, Bronn. Sir Mandon? The boy flinched. I never meant to...
No, he can't even say it.
Dead? You're certain? Dead? He shuffled his feet sheepish. Drowned. Good. Say nothing of him, of me, any of it. Nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's important. This is, he doesn't want anybody to know that he knows what almost happened.
They don't know that I know that we know that they know they know. It starts to really get a little bit circuitous after a bit.
So, yeah, a lot of important little things are happening in these chapters that, you have no idea how important they are, and, unless you've already, like, read them or saw the show like I did. But otherwise, this is such good setup for something that occurs later, like laying the foundation for what you're planning to do going forward. It's really well done.
It really is. Which makes me feel all the more embarrassed that I never realized.
I shared a picture of a tweet from George Martin the other day because he was on the Twitters telling people to get excited because there's a new cover of Clash of Kings coming out. I was not amused. That shit used to be funny to me before I agreed to read these damn books. And now I don't think it's very funny. And I'm going to need him to be better about what he's posted on the Twitters. And Austin was like, I don't think he is the person behind the social media account. I don't care nothing about that.
That's almost worse. Because it's somebody who definitely has to be aware of what George, I can say, he's in his bubble a little bit, and so he isn't aware how this is going to come across. But if it's like not him, I don't even have that excuse. It's somebody who's just like, yeah. Like, dude, if it's not you, then it's somebody that you pay, and you should fire them. Oh God. It's also funny because, like, it's the new cover. Like, I mean, there are so many covers to these books. And, like, I have the illustrated one on Kindle. Anyway. Yeah. So, and I wanted to mention, too, about the fact that Tyrion's injury on the show is not nearly as bad. I had thought for a time that it was just that they didn't want to make him ugly. Because they felt like that was going to be... somehow make him, like, less relatable or something. I don't know. But... apparently it was because it was going to take a ton of money to constantly, like, green screen in a hole in his face for all his scenes. It was just, he's such a major character that doing that was going to be incredibly expensive, and they knew that they were about to have, like, more dragon shit coming, and that was where they needed to put all their money. So they just were like, yeah, we're going to have to not do it and acknowledge that we didn't do it.
Did you ever watch Boardwalk Empire?
Yes.
You remember the character that was missing like that part of his face, and he wore that prosthetic mask?
Yeah. What?
They could have did something. I was just thinking about the makeup job they did on him for when he wasn't wearing the mask.
Do you think Tyrion should have worn a mask?
No. I was just talking about CGI and green screening Tyrion's injury versus the sort of practical special effects they used on Boardwalk Empire.
I think that you can use practical on somebody's face if you're trying to give the impression of scarring or like weird formation. But if you're trying to detract, you're taking off his nose. That's a really hard thing to pull off and look real with practical effects.
I'm trying to find a picture
if you're trying
of the guy,
to like
but it's
pull
take forever.
something out. I don't know.
Because like he was supposed to have like the bottom half of his face was like blown off. Yeah.
But yeah,
but anyway,
I could see definitely that being like, well, this is part of why we gave him a mask, so we didn't have to do that all the time either. Because practical effects are also fucking expensive after a time.
True.
All right. Is there anything else that you wanted to add before we wrap this up?
No, ma'am.
All right. Well, guys, Rashawn's running pretty late, so I will be greeting new patrons next week instead. I appreciate all of your patience because we didn't have an episode up last week, but Rashawn was ill and is doing better.
I am.
Thank you.
I don't know why I turned it into a call and response. I was at church for a second.
Oh, but yeah, again, thank you guys so much for your patience. And you can check us out on the old internets at unspoiledpodcast.com. You can go to the Discord, which I link in the show notes, to chat with us about it. And that'll hopefully tide you over. And until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Trant, Tywin Lannister.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.